Welcome to the Conscious Investor. Let's get started.
Sometimes as we are trying to invest in our lives, we find ourselves just so overwhelmed by the little daily things that have to get done. And those little daily things actually inhibit us from the major contribution that we're striving for, that we're trying to give to the world, our contribution to our families, to our children, to our partners, to, organizations that we want to support. And today's guest is just going to totally rock your world because she and her husband have created the most incredible solution. I have no doubt at the end of this episode, you're going to reach out to her and you're going to be like, when are you franchising in my area? Do it tomorrow or do it yesterday. Okay. So I just want to say, Claire, I'm so grateful for what you guys are creating and I can't wait to dive into it. But first, welcome to the Conscious Investor.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. This is a great opportunity. I'm super excited to talk about it.
Well, I'm excited to talk about what you guys are creating because a lot of people listening have kids. A lot of my audience, their kids may be towards the end and they're going to be like, why wasn't this around sooner? And, but a lot of people have the littles that are also getting ready to get into the stages and the world gets crazy as soon as your kids start team sports. So Claire, I would love, will you go ahead and just walk us through this story? Tell us what you and, Cason have created and why, the origin story. Let's just hear it all. And I probably won't even interrupt.
Yeah,
that's how excited I am.
For sure. I'd love to tell you about it. So I'm Claire Larsen. My husband, Cason, and I started a company called Izzy a few months ago. I think we officially launched in August. So what we are is an on-demand errand running service. So kind of think DoorDash, that picks up your food and brings it to your house, but for all different errands, like post office, pharmacy, grocery shopping, taking your dog to the groomer, dry cleaning, anything in between, taking your kid's lunch to school that he left at home. Really just anything that you'd consider an errand or something that's going to interrupt your day, we can do for you on demand. So the idea for this kind of came about because my husband and I are both the oldest children. He's the oldest of 5, I'm the oldest of 3. And our moms were just constantly so busy, just taking us to and from practice, having to run to the grocery store, having to pick up a million things, taking something to a neighbor, dropping something off at a friend's house. It was just constant, just going. And we saw that sacrifice. And I mean, personally, I saw my mom, she used to be a spin instructor. She used to love this and this and this. And, she kind of, she gave a lot of that up to raise us kids, which I'm so grateful for. And, in my opinion, there's no better work than bringing up the next generation. And it's truthfully amazing what moms can do, what my mom did, what my husband's mom did and continues to do for him. So we thought, what can we do to help these moms save time and help them to be able to continue to pursue their passions and not to really kind of lose themselves in all of this. So that's where Izzy really was born. It's kind of, Izzy for when life gets busy. We can run all of your errands for you and we can just help you out in any way that we can so that you can pursue your passions. You can get back into spin instructing. You can, you can pursue a full-time career if you need to and still have time for the things that actually matter.
It's absolutely genius. But let's go back to even before it became an errand running service. Yeah. What was it originally going to be?
Yeah, that's a great question. So originally, actually, before my husband and I even met, he had the idea, I think he took an entrepreneurship class at BYU, and they were ask people what their pains are, right? So he's a freshman, first semester, so he goes to his mom, what's your biggest pain? And she's like, honestly, driving you kids around. I have to be in 10 different places at once and, it's super difficult. And she was like, okay, it's good. It would be awesome to have a service that would, Uber my kids essentially, an Uber for kids that was more trustworthy. So he went to his professor. His professor said, this is awesome. Go validate the idea. He talked to tons of people and they all said, we love it. But when it came down to it, the liability was pretty crazy. Some people were like, heck yeah, I would put my kid in an Uber with a stranger, and some people were like, absolutely not. So it was just very hit and miss. And it was just really hard to kind of get a concept like that off of the ground. So we thought, okay, what's the reason that we're doing this? Like, we kind of thought, like, what is our why in starting this company? Because I kind of came in towards like the middle of it when he was like trying to get it all going, and I said, Cason, like, what's the why are we doing this? And he said, well, to save my mom time, like to save mom's time. And I said, well, let's do everything around that. There's driving kids is not the only thing that's taking her time away. It's this and this and this, and there's a million different things throughout the day. So we said, we'll do everything besides driving kids. Maybe one day we'll add that. Spoiler alert, we'll see, once we have the manpower, but that's really the goal, just to help people save time and do more of the things that actually matter.
I absolutely love it. I love that you guys were starting with like, hey, basically let's like have an on-demand kid chauffeur that can get kid from, because sometimes practices run late or practice gets canceled, and it's like, oh crud, that practice got canceled, but I have to be across town dropping this other kid off over here. Like, it would be such a gap filler, that would be great. But I can see, like some people being like my kid in a car with a stranger.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and like that's kind of, I don't know, what I found with like, being an entrepreneur and starting a company, it's you have to be flexible and be able to kind of pivot your idea, no matter how good it was to begin with, pivot it to fit the needs of your consumer. Because, some people would say, oh, this would literally save my life. Please add kids. Like, please, we're begging you. We're like, you know what? It's all in due time. It'll happen, but, we have to do it right.
Yeah, exactly. And it might even be, that part might be geographically bound, like mentality, depending on where you're at geographically. Like if you live in a big city, it might be comfortable putting your kid in a taxi, and having a service like this would be just as comfortable versus maybe some people in suburbia where that's not the daily norm, might be a little less comfortable. So one thing that I have found is that my own personal mindset is shifting towards, I have to do everything on my own, because that's me being responsible, right? Like, I need to go do the grocery shopping. I need to clean my own house. I'm starting to gravitate away from that, because I'm realizing, I have a contribution to make, and these things are taking my time from what I could be doing to build into this contribution to the world. And in turn, also, like, that's time I would like to be investing in my family. But I noticed that, and it could just be my geography. We have already established that I live in this small rural town and everyone's pretty self-sufficient. So it could just be my geography. But I was curious if you faced that with any, in building your business. Are you like shifting people's mindset through some marketing messages and such to say, no, this isn't a luxury, this is a necessity, so that you can have the quality life that you want?
Yeah, no, that's such a great question. And I would say definitely we have run into a little bit of that where people are like, yes, I would love this, and I do want to get back into tennis. I do want to, spend more time with my kid, or, whatever it is. But they're like, I just feel like this is my duty, like as a mother. And not even just mothers, like as a dad too, as someone that, is in the workplace, like whoever it is, whoever wants to potentially use our service, they feel guilty. And it's definitely something that we've kind of had to get over. I think it's, especially with mothers and with women, society has kind of put this definition on us like, okay, you are accomplished if you are doing everything for your family, if you are the one making dinner, picking everything up, making sure the house is perfectly spotless before your husband gets home from work. And I think we are seeing a shift, like the more that time goes on and the more that women are expected more in the workplace, maybe not expected, but celebrated more in the workplace. And I think the more time goes on, the further away that we will drift from that mentality. But it's definitely something that we've had to help people get over. Like, hey, yes, it is important to be the one to pick up the groceries. Someone's got to do it. It's important to have food on the table, but maybe it doesn't have to be you. Maybe there is something greater that you can do with that time, whether it be helping your kid extra with his homework, or going out and starting your own podcast. You know what I mean? Like it could be a million different things, but kind of like shifting that mindset has definitely been a hump that we've had to get over with some people. You know, a lot of people are like, heck yeah, if I never have to go to the grocery store again, I am down. But some people definitely have that like iffy, like, oh, like I want this, but like, am I going to be judged for it? Like maybe I want it, maybe I don't see a problem with it, but is my neighbor going to say, oh, like she can't do her own dry cleaning, like, oh, you know what I mean? Like it's going to have to be a shift in the mindset of society as a whole, I think.
Mm-hmm. So how do you see when you talk to people, and I would be like that avatar right there would be, I'm actually in the process of making a lot of those big mindset shifts. And that's because, I mean, I'm in the personal and professional growth space. And so I'm always like just trying to expand. And so there are some people that aren't necessarily there, but they could make that shift. So what is that message to say, that permission message, I suppose?
Yeah, definitely. What we've tried to do thus far, if you look at our social media, it's just very empowering. Like, okay, if you didn't have to go and trying to think, if you didn't have to go this morning to pick up something from somewhere 30 minutes away and bring it back to your house, like if you didn't have to go and drop your kids' lunch off at school, what would you do? And just kind of get people thinking, like not telling them, yeah, go start your podcast, go do this, because that looks so different for everybody. So just kind of getting them to self-reflect, like, okay, if you didn't have to do X, Y, and Z, what would it be that you would fill your time with? And maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just like, I would take a break. I would sit on my couch, I would take a nap, and that is okay. So I think just for us, the messaging has been really just trying to get people to kind of think in their own mind, like, what is it that I would do? Because it is different for everybody.
That is empowering when you put it that way, especially to say, hey, yeah, everybody gets to fill in their own blank, and that's really powerful. I mean, honestly, I'm even thinking about people who are dropping their kid, like dropping the dog off at the groomer, for instance. You know, okay, well, maybe I'll drop the dog off at the groomer, or maybe I'll have someone else drop the dog off, and I'll go grab coffee with a friend, and I'll pick the dog up, or I'll figure out some combination of all of these things that is so that my life is like serving me. It's serving the world. It's producing something where there's that pain point is reduced. I love this so much. So what are some of the challenges that you have faced? And I mean, you guys are a husband and wife entrepreneurship, you know, starting a business from scratch. So I'd love to hear, you know, some of the growth celebrations through that process. I happen to be also married to my business partner. So
There you go.
I know some of ours, but you know, I'd love to hear how you guys have grown.
Yeah, totally. So for us, it's just really been hard almost to kind of separate the two, like our relationship and our work life, because, you know, at a normal job, you'd come home, you know, to your husband or wife or your kids, and you'd be kind of able to set it all behind you, right? But for us, it's like 12 o'clock and we're laying in bed and we're sending emails and we're brainstorming what else we can do. So we've really had to consciously think, okay, how are we going to separate this? Like, okay, for the next hour, we're not going to talk about it. We're just going to sit down. We're going to watch this show. You know, we have the shows that we watch together every night. But it's also about, you know, like being an entrepreneur and being in this space, you have to celebrate those small wins just because it's such a process. And, you know, like hopefully all in all, at the end, it's a big win and we can help a lot of people. But you know, when a new customer books an errand or when we get a new small business signed up to do the deliveries, just like celebrating those moments and appreciating the work that went into that has been really helpful for us because, you know, it's like if you're about to hike a big mountain and you're just looking up at it, it's like you just have to focus on every step in front of you and not think about the big picture, you know, all too much. Because if you do that, you're just going to stress yourself out, I think.
That is so true. When you said that, I just pictured myself as like the 13-year-old version of myself hiking up Half Dome. I've hiked it so many times, and that you know, just you're hiking, and you know you're going to be putting in 18 miles for the day, and it's going to be intense, and it's going to work out. But you have to have those benchmarks, the little waypoints, and it's like, oh, I made it to the top of this waterfall. Great. take a breather. Okay. And so have you guys been able to incorporate some breathing room? And I'm going to admit that I struggle because I love what I do so much. I think I'm driving my kids insane because, it's like I mean, it's difficult for me to remove myself from what I do because I love what I do. So it doesn't feel like work. It's something that's always at top of mind because it's a passion. And so, like, so I have to like kind of weave in break points. Like this weekend, I told my husband, like, I got to check out. I know I do. We all know I do. Like, I got to really focus in and be 100% family and not mentally partitioned. So have you guys figured out has that been a struggle? Have you guys figured out a solution or?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually have become really good at just taking our weekends. Maybe not Friday. Okay, I guess just our Sundays have been really helpful because, we'll get up, we won't think too much about work. Like, we'll try to barely talk about it, and we'll just really consciously, I like how your show is called The Conscious Investor. I think I've brought that word up quite a few times. Just really being really intentional about purposefully not bringing it up and purposefully just kind of redirecting your thought in another direction. Because if not, it's just going to be spewing out of our mouths all day, every day, and we won't have anything else to talk about. And one day we'll sit down and realize, oh my gosh, like, when's the last time we talked about something other than Izzy? I think it's just very intentional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it does. It really does. My husband and I have been married we realized the other day, like, it's that point where I don't know, we've been together for a couple of decades. I don't know how many we've been married. Like, it's like, it's one of those points in life and it's such a great thing, but you kind of look at, across the span of time, you definitely have to make sure that you keep those conversations like flowing in other capacities. So it's not just centric on one thing. What has been biggest challenge? Like biggest, can't sleep at night, but we overcame it.
Let me think. That's a great question. So many.
There have probably been, hey, if I know anything about entrepreneurship, there have been more than one. So you're probably like, which one should I choose?
Totally. Something that's been interesting for us is like, if we see a company, in Israel doing something semi-similar, like we'll find it and be like, oh no, like, are they going to come over here? And I'm a marketing major, so we learn a lot that like, competition is healthy. And in fact, it's like a good thing. So I've really just had to kind of pound that into my husband's brain. Like he'll find random companies in like other countries or like something random on the East Coast that's doing something semi-similar. And he's just like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen? And it's just been really like, okay, it's okay. It's not here, and competition is okay. It's real. There's like 10 DoorDashes, Lyft, Uber, like it's okay and it's normal. Like it's good to have competition in the market. You keep each other in check. Other than that, I'm just trying to think. The website has always been rough. I mean, neither of us are in tech. And we have a guy on our team that's really been awesome, and he built our website right now that we use to book the errands. Our app is currently being built, so it's a little bit janky, but it gets a point across. You can book your errand, put date, time, pickup location, drop off location, but there's been certain instances where like the payment hasn't gone through, or like the discount code that we give a customer like won't work, and then they don't book, and it's like, oh my gosh, like we just lost someone because our website, just like that type of thing. Tech can be so hit or miss. Like some days,
it's
like
so fickle.
Exactly. Like the website will be perfectly working, and then the next week it's like nothing's working, and like they can't find the address that they're trying to put in. It's just like But I mean, most of the time it's good. Don't let that deter you from trying us out. But that's definitely been something that keeps us up, and we just are so excited for when the app is ready to go because we think that'll take a lot of stress off of our backs.
Oh, big time. And it probably increase your business as well, just by nature of, we're all carrying around our little computers and our phones all the time.
Yes.
That you guys are both, you're still in college, if I recall.
Yes.
So you're carrying the load, you're building a business, all of that. In a sense, you guys are kind of functioning as you're very like the people you're trying to serve, being stretched thin in every capacity. So, how is that being a young entrepreneur in the world today?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny you say that because I think about that quite often. I'm like, I'm the ideal candidate for somebody that needs this service, but being on the other end of it, I'm having to do 10 times more than I would have had to do before. There has been times when I've scheduled an errand for myself because we have
Nice.
assistants, what we call Izzy assistants that will, do around and do the errands. So that's happened a few times. But as far as being a young entrepreneur, it's amazing and people are so helpful. And something that I've found is that if you need something, all you have to do is ask. I think a lot of times people don't get the things that they need or they want just because they don't ask. And I've just found that that's been really helpful. Like if I know somebody that's good with finances, I'll just ask, hey, could you help me out with this? And 9 times out of 10, they're more than happy, especially being an entrepreneur in college. And people are just so willing and supportive, and it's amazing. On the other end of the spectrum, we are young, and people will be like, okay, but why should I trust you? You haven't done this before. You haven't had 6 successful tech exits in your under your belt.
Right.
Like, why should I put money in? We like you guys. We can see you're driven, but that's a little bit hard because you can't buy experience. You just have to live it. So I think just this first time around, and I'd love to start other companies in the future, but it's like really trying to convey to people that you are driven and that you will do anything to make something happen. And it's definitely a bit of a learning curve because people a lot of the time say, you're 23, like, see you later. It's a little bit hard in that way.
I felt the same. I felt that same sentiment. I started as a residential realtor and I was all of like 24 or 25 years old and looked like I was still in middle school. And it was like that credibility factor of, even somebody just like, I mean, you guys are web-based, so you don't necessarily have that like, oh, I looked at you in this, but if you're looking for investors or you're looking for this, the business partners and such, then it's, like you're saying, it's like, really, you're so cute.
Yeah,
I'll see you in 10 years. It's like,
but how will I get where you want me to be in 10 years if I don't do this now? And like most people are very understanding, but you get some people that are like, oh, but you're so young, like you've never done this before. I'm like, okay, but those people I've done it a million times had to have done it a first time, kind of interesting.
Yep. Yeah. The catch-22 of it all.
Yes.
Golly, that's awesome. I'm curious, like, what you plan on doing next, or let me scrap that question actually and go to one of my favorite questions is like your mindset shift. Since you guys have been building this, what has been one of the biggest mindset shifts that you've made?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I actually used to be really into a podcast, How I Built This. I don't know if you've heard that one before, where entrepreneurs just really tell their stories. And I loved it in high school. And I always thought I would love to start my own business. Like that would be so cool, like the whole journey of it all. But I would think, oh, but like they're just so lucky, like they're like right place, right time. They came up with the idea. And a lot of it is that, knowing the right people, being in the right place, talking with the right person on the right day. But it's like, what I've found is like a mindset switch is that people can create their own good luck, truthfully. Like, if you want something and if you work hard enough, like you can do it. And kind of like I was saying before, the concept of just asking for something, like there's been so many things and so many great opportunities that have come just because I just asked and I just said, hey, like, what about this? And then they're like, oh yeah. Like initially I may have thought, oh, they would never say yes. Like, why would I even ask? But, 9 times out of 10, people just are awesome and people are inherently good and they want to help you. So for me, it's just been, you can create your own good luck. If you want something, you can do it.
I'm just like 1,000,000% high fives. Yes. I have found the same thing with asking. And I've done that. My dad taught me to follow curiosity and to ask questions. He is always asking people questions to the point where it's a little bit obnoxious sometimes, like, oh my gosh, he's going to ask another question, but he was always following curiosity. And when you ask and you're interested and or you're genuine and sincere, people pick up on that, and they want to come alongside. They want to rally with you, or they want to help you understand something. And that question, but it takes humility. It takes a level of setting the ego aside and not trying to posture as, oh, I got this all figured out. It's that, hey, I really need your help. And I think that might be one of the reasons that it's favored and that it works out so well by asking, because people recognize you ate some humble pie before asking that question, more than likely.
Yes, that's very true. And I think kind of like what you were saying, I love the concept of just being humble. Like no matter how much you think you know, there's always going to be somebody that knows more, but also just being confident in what you know. Like recognizing that there is always room for improvement, but also being happy with where you're at. I think people are drawn to that confidence. It's like a perfect mixture of confidence and humility. I think people are really attracted to that.
I think that might be what true confidence is, though, right? You can be confident and humble, or confident and cocky.
Very true.
And so, like, the ones that are confident and humble, I know what to do with it. If a mess happens, I know what to do with it, and I'm going to take care of it with integrity and in a good way. And the confident and cocky is like, what mess? I never make a mess. I've got it all figured out, and you'll never know about it if I do make a mess.
It's very true. I think we know people that fall into both categories, right?
Right. Exactly. I'm going to throw out there that I would highly recommend, if you guys haven't read 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. I think that you guys will gain tremendous insight from that. And if you're listening, I'm not sure when this is going to come out, but we might be wrapping up. I'm not sure, but we have a book club on 0 to 1 starting up for the 5-week book and networking club. And it is going to be phenomenal. I've read it cover to cover. And for entrepreneurs starting, where like you guys are ahead of where he's at, but that thinking behind the competition and things like that comes about it from a very different position, and it's like mind-blowing.
Wow, I'm gonna have to read that. I want to join your book club. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, you really should join the book club. It is amazing.
I'd love to.
I'll make sure that I send you information on that, when we're off air.
Yes, please.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as we're wrapping up, is there anything else that you're like, I really think that the listeners would benefit, or I'd really like to share?
Yeah, I was thinking, because I know you kind of mentioned like the topics that we'd be talking about, and you talked about, relationships and like mindset switch. And I really thought about it. And I think honestly, if you want to be successful in every part of life, and I'm very young, so take this with a grain of salt or take it to heart, whatever you choose. But I think if you put what's most important, like your husband or your family or your kids, truthfully above anything else, I think everything else will fall into place, because I think that you can find a way to have it all and to do it all, whether it be an errand service that helps you fill in the gaps, or whether it be something else. I think that if you don't lose sight of who you are and what keeps you grounded, that's where true success comes in. I think a lot of the times we have different definitions of success. In my mind, if I can be good, with my family, and if I can feel like I'm doing something that's helping the world and making a difference, then I feel like I'm successful by my own definition. So I would just definitely say to find something that keeps you grounded and to not lose sight of that.
That is grounded advice. That's wisdom coming out right there. Doesn't matter how old you are, like you could be young, but that's like, there's a truth right there that you just spoke. So my goodness, like what an amazing life you have unfolding before you through everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Super, super well done. What's the best place, Claire? If someone's listening to you and they're inspired by you and they're like, wow, like I want to learn more about this. When you guys franchising, because I'm putting pressure on the franchise thing, right?
Yes.
We don't have the app, but let's franchise. It's coming. I'm like, I know it's coming. But, if people want to just learn more about Izzy, or they just want to connect with you and, follow your entrepreneurial journey, what's the best place?
Yeah, for sure. So our Instagram is Izzy, IZZY _app. Like I said, it's misleading, not an app yet, but will soon be an app. And then, if you want to follow my personal Instagram, I post my husband, my family. It's Claire Larsen 7, LARSEN. But yeah, and then, I'd also want to give your followers a code. If you're in Utah, we serve anywhere from Ogden to Springville. If you use the code first errand, then at checkout, you can get your first errand done for you for free. So if you want to try.
Wow, first errand for free. That's like, I'm going to be a loyal customer. If I lived in Utah, I'd be using your service.
If you ever make your way down here, and we will definitely be expanding soon, so stay tuned for that.
That's so exciting. Claire, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us at The Conscious Investor.
Of course, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And to all you amazing listeners out there, make sure you go and connect up with Claire and Cason and just follow what's going on and follow what's going on with Izzy. It's very, very exciting and it might be coming to your community soon. You might be able to make that happen sooner if you show some support. Until next time, live big, love bigger.
Overwhelmed trying to figure out what book you should read next? Head over to julieholly.com and download the best books reading list. I've personally read the books I'm recommending for adults and kids ages 8 and older, and you can get a sneak peek even as to the books I'm considering reading next. Download this list and dive into your next best book. Head over to julieholly.com to download the list and dive into your next best book.